Test, test, test.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. What a lovely way to start our morning together with Mike and the Multigen Choir. Thank you all so much for singing. My name is Laura Christian Imbornoni, and I'm happy to greet everyone here on this summer day. A special welcome to those worshiping with us here for the first time, either in person or in our virtual audience, and a special welcome to anyone joining us physically or in the cyber world. If you'd like more information about our congregation, please fill out one of the guest cards in the pew rack in front of you. You can place the card in the offering plate when it comes around later in the service, and someone will reach out to you. If you're joining us virtually, take a look at our website, uucleveland.org, for more information. We acknowledge that we are gathering on the lands previously inhabited by the Erie, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe peoples, also known as the Three Fires Council. We recognize the need to learn more about these complex and sometimes painful histories. We realize the responsibility to care for this land we inhabit now and to respect the diverse peoples and cultures who preceded us, as well as those who gather here in our era. And now we're about to enter sacred space. Please take a moment to turn your phones and other devices to worship mode. We're going to put our guest speaker, Jackie Zarley, right to work this morning to light our chalice. As we light the chalice, you're invited to join me in reading these words of our covenant. You'll find our covenant on the yellow card on the back pew in front of you. We cultivate trust with one another by celebrating differences, honoring boundaries, and offering compassion and care. We listen to each other deeply with curiosity and wonder. We speak for ourselves without need to defend ourselves or persuade each other. We create safe and brave space for healthy conflict, creativity, and fun. We reconcile through forgiving and making amends when we hurt one another.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Randy Partain. My pronouns are they, them, and I am delighted to be with you in worship today, whether you're here in person or joining us online. I invite you to hear these words from Bayo, Akomolafe. Slow down seems like the wrong thing to do when there's fire on the mountain. But here's the point. In hurrying up all the time, we often lose sight of the abundance of resources that might help us meet today's most challenging crises. So in this time together, may we slow down and recognize the resources perhaps in this community around us that help us meet the needs of the day. In that spirit, we enter into worship together. We are going to sing. I didn't write down the number, and that's because it's in your order of service. We're going to sing Find a Stillness in just a moment, but before we do that, I invite you to take just a second or two and greet those around you. If you see a face you don't recognize, make a special effort to help them feel welcome today.
again. 2, 3, find the stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Thank you, Laura, for inviting a bit of the somatic into our worship. I was supposed to prepare people for that, and I didn't, and I apologize, so thank you for stepping right in. We take time each week to share our joys and concerns that we carry with us, and one of the things that I would like to do a little bit over the summer is just to share the joy that the staff have at some of the volunteers that serve in various ways. And today, I just would like to invite Steve Sanford to stand up so you can see Steve. You're looking around like you're trying to see who that is. That's you. Steve, you see Steve in the choir a lot, but Steve also is down here operating our sound on a regular basis. Steve serves in the welcome office and answers the phone and helps out in various ways to help people get connected with things around here, and is also on the lay pastoral care team and has done a phenomenal job of guiding that team through the training that they've been doing over months from the UU Institute and getting our deep listening skills and our compassion skills really well honed. And it's seen and appreciated, and this Chalice is just a... And major gardener worker. See, I don't even know all the things you do. Yes, you are all over the place, and we appreciate it, and thank you for all that you do. There'll be a few more of those in the weeks ahead. You might be one of them. So, we also have a stone of gratitude today. Many thanks to the board members whose terms of service end today, June 30th. So, Mark Ossel, who has served as treasurer, Kathleen Binnig, Amy Glesias, and Cliff Wire. They answered yes in the early scary days of the pandemic. They have served with grace and commitment, and we are grateful. Thank you all. If you're joining us online and you have joys or concerns you want to share with the congregation, I invite you to put any of those that you'd like to share in the chat below the video. If you're here in person, I invite you to come forward and place a stone in the water to acknowledge any joys or concerns you carry with you today. And hopefully after the service, you'll have a chance to share what these stones represent with other people here. We place a stone for those joys and concerns shared online today. And a stone for those things that remain in the vault of our hearts. Over the last several weeks, Jackie Zarley has been here kind of getting introduced to the congregation, and we've mentioned that she's going to be leading us in some post-service intergenerational activities throughout the summer. This is the first day that we've got something downstairs for everyone, and I'll let Jackie tell you a little bit more about what that is. But Jackie also volunteered to do some speaking in the service, and so I'm delighted to welcome Jackie Zarley.
Sorry, get myself situated here. Well, good morning. I don't think I'm situated. Hold on. Falling apart here. Okay, got it. So good morning. So first thing I need to do is do my Superman breathing pose to prepare for this. So, all right. So when my daughter was little, when her great big emotions would get out of control, I would prescribe a timeout. And that meant going to her room and having some quiet time. And you would have thought by her screaming and wailing, "No, Mom, no, no, no," that I had sentenced her to Alcatraz. I mean, really, what is so horrible about going to your room where it's quiet and you have your books and your music and your toys and your stuffies? I thought, I want someone to send me to a timeout. Like, imagine, go to your room. Yes, ma'am. Right? Close the door, have some quiet time, enjoy just some peaceful time to recalibrate my brain and center myself. Alas, in our world, we don't have a lot of time for timeout, for rest, for realigning our brains and our thoughts and our minds. The American dream doesn't really have a space for timeout. I was actually reading an article about historian James Truslow Adams, who actually coined the phrase, the American dream. And he was actually an advocate of rest and rejuvenation. And he tells a story about an anthropologist who was working with the people in the upper Amazon. And after a couple of months working with them, he received word from home that he had to get home. His father was ill. So he enlisted the help of a chief and a few of his men to help him do a 3-day march out of the Amazon. And so the first morning, the men were up before dawn, and they were ready to go, and they trudged through that jungle, and they found just the right way, and they made huge progress. The second day, same thing, up before dawn, trudged through the forest, made gigantic progress. But on the third day, they didn't move. They stayed sitting or lying down. And the anthropologist said, what's going on? And the chief said, they can go no further until their souls catch up with their bodies. How long have we been running our bodies without allowing our souls to catch up? Where am I? So maybe you've heard about the Good Samaritan. We have all heard that story, but have you heard about the Good Samaritan experiment? So at the seminary at Princeton, they did an experiment with undergraduate seminary students. and they told each one of them that they had to go across campus to another building and give a speech. Half of them were told that they were going to give a speech about job prospects in the ministry. The other half was told that they were going to give a homily on the Good Samaritan. Now, they were also told one of three things. Some were told, you have plenty of time, take your time, they'll start when you get there. Some of them were told, if you leave right now, you will be there on time. Then some of them were told, you're already late. They're waiting for you, you gotta go, right? So the theory, the working theory was that those who were focusing on the Good Samaritan would probably help someone who was in need. So they planted a man along the route that looked like he was desperately in need. He had no shoes, and he was wrapped in a blanket, and he was clearly in need of some help. But unfortunately, the sad truth is that what the seminary students were thinking about, whether they were thinking about job prospects or whether they were thinking about the Good Samaritan, it didn't matter as to who stopped and who didn't. What did matter was how much of a hurry they were in. So those who had more time were happy to stop. We're happy to be with someone else. You see, when we don't stop and slow down and rest, when we're not in a hurry, hurry is the enemy of our spiritual growth. In fact, Carl Jung said that hurry is not of the devil, it is the devil. When we are in a hurry, we not only don't take care of our own needs, but we are blind to the needs of others. So guess what? You all are going to get a timeout. So after church, I am sentencing you all, not to Alcatraz, to a timeout. So we have tables back there. We'll have some nice music. I have sensory activities. I have Play-Doh and crayons and things for you to just relax and slow down. So I invite you on this warm Sunday morning to come and join us for a timeout after the service.
So, speaking of time in a little different way, we have a timely offering partner today, Northeast Ohio Voter Advocates, also known as NOVA, a grassroots organization that seeks to expand voter participation for all voices. NOVA has registered thousands of underrepresented voters in food pantries, social service agencies, correctional facilities, schools, and other venues. Our fellow congregant, Susan Alcorn, actually serves on the board of NOVA and has conducted voter registration right here in this building. It's NOVA's goal to register voters and provide vote by mail for 8,000 people this year. Susan Alcorn mentioned that volunteers are needed, and please contact her to learn more about that. NOVA's research and advocacy have improved local and state election laws. Their testimony on a local, statewide, and national level resulted in improved voting accessibility for all, including underrepresented populations. Please place your offering, cash or check. The check should be made payable to UUCC in the collection plate as it's passed. You may also contribute via Cash App to $UUCC 44122. Please indicate on the memo line today's date and our plate recipient, Nova. Please give generously within your own ability. The Clearing by Martha Postlewaite. Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is your life falls into your own cupped hands, and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worth of rescue.
If you know anything about me, you probably know that I like games quite a bit. I like a lot of different kinds of games. Most of the games that I play have a point to them. There's a goal. You have to figure something out. Even cooperative games, you have to work together to accomplish something. There's an end point. You know whether you've won or lost the game. And sometimes we have created games as people just to pass the time. Like solitaire. It's like a gamification of putting cards in order. It's like we've obsessive compulsive disorder the game. Can we just get all of these things? But there's an end point at least. We know whether we've got it done. We have some structure. There's some rules that we go by, and we can spend our time with this pleasant experience. You're doing something. But there is a type of game, and I'm thinking of games that would be on a device. You could play it on a computer or your phone or your tablet, what have you, that are called idle games. It's a very specific genre. And it's a game where you don't have to do anything at all because the game just kind of does it all for you. The first one of these was that I know about was in 2002, and it was called Progress Quest. It was based on these games where you have a character that goes out and accomplishes quests, and you go up in level as you do more quests. You go and find this quest, and you accomplish it, and then you get more powerful as you go. Except in Progress Quest, you sent other people out to do that. And then they would report back. It's like, we gathered all of the things, and then they went up in level, and then you just were watching them do their thing. There was a website called Congregate, with a K, Congregate, that was an early breeding ground for this. It was a gaming platform, but the people who gathered there were more interested in the chat feature and just being able to communicate with each other and have conversations in the chat. And so they created these idle game prototypes so that there would be something going on while they were chatting with each other, because that's what they really wanted to do. But a lot of this stuff was underground until about 2013. And there was this game that became very popular, and some of you may have never heard of it, but I certainly was very fascinated with Cookie Clicker. Cookie Clicker was a free game. There were no ads. There was nothing to it except a big chocolate chip cookie in the middle of the screen. And you clicked on the cookie. And it said, "Congratulations, you baked a cookie." And you click on it again, and you click on it again, and that gets old really fast. So by the time you have like 5 cookies or so, you can trade them in on a cursor that will just click for you. And then you can just watch the cursor make cookies. But this was a very complicated game, though, because once you get enough cookies with the cursor just kind of automatically clicking, you could trade a certain number of cookies in on a grandma. And the grandma is very good at baking cookies. A grandma can bake cookies at a much faster rate. You can get a whole army of grandmas if you trade in cookies for grandmas. But then you can get a cookie factory. You trade in your cookies on a cookie factory, and then the factory can produce a lot more cookies than an army of grandmas. And then you can get a mine, so that you can mine the cookies out of the earth where the cookies all grow. And then you can get shipments of cookies from other planets. Lots of rocket ships bringing shipments of cookies. And then you could get an alchemy lab, so you could turn gold into cookies, because we all know what's most valuable in this world. And you could open up portals to pull in cookies from other dimensions, and you could have a time machine to pull in cookies from the past, to have a world of cookies. Now, I say you're doing this, but you're not really doing anything. You're just kind of clicking on a thing that says, okay, get a mine. And then you spend your cookies, and it's really just counting big numbers faster and faster and faster is all it's doing. An idle game. There's no end to this. There's ticker tape that changes across the top as the world increases in the amount of cookies that are in it. And the grandmas kind of change. There's something about the grandmas. But it's just the same screen with some little tabs on the side that tell you all of these things. And you don't have to do anything aside from just watch the numbers just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There are a lot of these games now. Clicker games, idle games. Except they've changed. It's not quite like Cookie Clicker. Now, you can watch an ad to get more resources or to make it go faster. Or you can pay some money to get some things, because if you can't wait for the cookies to accumulate, you can pay money so that you get a bunch of factories all at once or something like that. They've monetized idleness because we are so bad at sitting and doing nothing, and we are so impatient that we would rather pay to move things along than to just sit back and watch things happen. We seem to be addicted to urgency, and very little in our lives is truly urgent. You know, there was a version of that experiment you talked about with the seminary students. They did a version of that on this very short-lived reality competition show hosted by Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man and lots of other Marvel comic stuff. It was called So You Want to Be a Superhero. And the contestants had their superhero persona that they were trying to put forward, and they had to go through a series of challenges in order to demonstrate their ability to be the best superhero. And one of the challenges was that challenge. They had to get someplace very fast. It was like a timed challenge. And in the middle of this square they had to go through was a child, a plant, an actor who had lost its mother and was devastated and distressed. And some of the would-be superheroes paid absolutely no attention to that child. They were just oblivious. They were driven. They had to get to where they were going. They had to do their challenge. They had to accomplish what they were set out to do, and they had very little time to do it. And so everything else around them was not important. It didn't even occur to them that that child that needed help might be the challenge for a hero. So all of this talk about rest and idleness, and it seems in some ways like a luxury in our society to have rest and idleness. But it really does become a question of, who do we want to be? Who do we want to be in the world? It really comes back to the spiritual practice of Sabbath. If any of you have gotten an email from me since I've gotten here, then you would see that I have in my auto-signature when I'm usually available, and I take Fridays as a personal Sabbath. That's what I've listed as. And that's true. But what I have learned over time is that Sabbath is not a time thing. Sabbath is not a day. It's not just a thing that you do for a while and then you go back to the rest of life. Sabbath really is a way of being. And there are times when I need a Sabbath breath before I hit send on an email. Or there are times when I need a Sabbath space in between Zoom meetings. Sabbath is a way of recentering and a way of inviting rest and breath and a moment, a pause, into lots and lots of things that we do. Setting aside a day for it is a piece of that practice. Most of us don't really experience rest in a deep sense. But Sabbath, a spiritual practice of rest, gives us sustainability for long-term, it gives us energy for long-term sustainability, and it prepares us to love one another well. Here's what Wayne Muller said about Sabbath. Sabbath creates a marker for ourselves so that if we are lost, we can find our way back to our center. That could be just a breath. And isn't it amazing how often we refuse ourselves even that necessary space of breath to recenter? But it's really hard to drop a meaningful marker if we are in constant motion and never taking a moment to identify, this is where I need to find my way back to. This is what being centered and grounded feels like. This is where I need to orient myself when I have a rest moment. Our culture breeds restlessness and fear and anxiety. We are driven to do and produce more. We honor that idea of being busy. I know people who have retired that are busier than they ever were when they were earning money, were at a job, because they are busy, busy, busy. We honor that busyness. And we are told in a lot of ways that we are never enough, that we never have enough, that there won't be enough. And so we consume more and we try to become more. We develop attitudes of scarcity rather than abundance. We fight to protect what we have. And as a result, we are habitually restless because we don't believe we have enough. We keep fighting for more. We believe that we don't do enough, so we keep working harder. We're afraid that there won't be enough, so we gather all that we can, and we're restless because we don't believe that we are already enough. We work and struggle to prove ourselves and to prove our worth, which is a really bizarre thing for Unitarian Universalists to do. We who believe in inherent worthiness, and yet our society tells us, you have to keep proving it. And all of that restlessness makes us an anxious people. I'm not talking about anxiety with a capital A that's a diagnosis. I mean just that daily experience of being human, that lowercase a anxiety. We're always worried about something, or stressed out about something, or up in arms about something. Our anxiety prevents us from experiencing real rest, even when we aren't actively working. We could be looking at the number of cookies that are accumulating and being anxious about when am I going to get to buy that portal so I can get cookies from another dimension, because we can't experience just rest. And I'm going to say something that some of you are going to push back on in your heads if you haven't pushed back already, which is fine if you do. All of this makes us a violent people. And I don't mean violence in terms of physical violence necessarily, although, I don't think anybody in this room, but there might be some people out there that restlessness and anxiety leads to physically violent behavior. But I mean, we attack others verbally. We're constantly reacting to what other people do. Criticism and judging and gossip are all forms of violence against other people. The more restless and anxious we are, the more prone to violence we become. Violence even against ourselves. Thomas Merton, one of my favorite theologians, Thomas Merton said, to allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone in everything, is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of our activism neutralizes our work for peace. It destroys the fruitfulness of our own work because it kills the root of inner wisdom, which makes work fruitful. Our inability for Sabbath, our inability for meaningful rest, kills the root of our inner wisdom. Now, I don't think it really kills it, because I think we always have inner wisdom that we can tap into. And I guess that is what this countercultural restfulness is really about. It's not just the fact that we take a breath. It's not just the fact that we watch big numbers accumulate without feeling like we need to do anything. It's not the fact that we just rest for a moment and look at something on, what's that oddly satisfying subreddit where they just have videos of things like taffy being pulled over and over and over again. And you sit there mesmerized for a little while. It's not just that we take a moment. It's what we do with that moment that makes it sacred. It's the ability to take a breath and find that marker that says, oh, that's right, that's where center is. Okay, now I'm oriented. We take that breath and remind ourselves of the principles and the values that we hold dear as Unitarian Universalists. And we say, am I aligning with that, or am I off center a bit? Okay, let's take the next step. Or whatever our own personal values are. It's an opportunity for us to connect with the divine. Even in a breath, we can do that if we're intentional with that restfulness. to say, oh, yes, that's right. I already have inherent worthiness. I don't have to prove anything here. Okay. All right. Next step. It's an opportunity to hear that song of your life that we're supposed to create a clearing and wait for. We have to wait with our hands cupped, knowing that there is a song of our life that will drop into our hands, trusting. I guess that's really what it is. It's about trust. Calmness, peace, connection, trust. Trust that there will be enough. Trust that we will have enough. Trust that we are enough. So when was the last time that you were full of rest? Not just that you woke up and got enough sleep, but when was the last time that you were full of calmness, peace, connection, and trust? What would you have to give your word to in order to live that kind of Sabbath? What I found really interesting last week, people were naming things that bring them joy, and you were naming potential Sabbath actions. You were naming looking at the clouds and seeing their patterns and knowing that there would never be another one quite like that. You were naming a stillness where you observe nature and just be present with that moment. You were naming a lot of things that bring you joy that really seem like Sabbath possibilities. If we invite this spiritual practice, maybe we will be able to open space so that all that we do is sacred work that flows from our deepest life-affirming values. And we will be able to invite that sacred work with one another more freely. May it be so. We are going to sing again. And it's a hymn you're familiar with. You may not need a hymnal for this. But if you would like a hymnal, if it brings you peace to have a hymnal open in front of you, it is hymn number 123 in the gray hymnal, Spirit of Life. May we rise, embody our spirit as we join our voices together. Okay, rest your bones for a moment. We've got a few things. First, I want to just draw your attention to the article in this week's newsletter about the door schedule. Thank you very much to our safety team for identifying what an appropriate... Oh, yeah, thank you, safety team. You have identified what some appropriate practices are for us, and one of the things that means is that our doors are going to be locked more times than they have been in the past. This should not limit any of your activities as a congregation, but it may mean that we need to get a key fob to you or make some arrangements so that your group can meet. So as you look at those door schedule times, if it looks like your group is going to need access to the building at a time when the doors would be locked, please reach out to Rita and let her know. We've been trying to reach out to all of those groups, but I know we might have missed a couple. So be proactive about that. We're not telling you can't meet then. We're just letting you know that we need to find a way to get you into the building. You'll also notice that we have been correcting some trip hazards on the walkway, the sidewalks that belong to the church. Those sidewalks, I think, are finished. They just need to do some backfill with sod and that sort of thing. So hopefully our sidewalks are a safer space for people to walk along. Thank you to Building and Grounds for making that happen. People making things happen in the summertime. Yes. You've already heard that today there will be some chill sensory activities downstairs in Fellowship Hall. Also, the Labyrinth is going to be up for one more day on the, the west lawn. So there's a little sign up there that has some instructions if you don't know how to walk between lines. But that's a meditative practice that will be available to you one more day. 10 a.m. tomorrow, I think they're taking that down. So it's like a sand mandala. We put it up, and then we sweep it away, and it's like it was never there. This Thursday, July 4th, the building will be closed. Sharon, are we having a supper on July 3rd? We will have supper July 3rd. So Wednesday evening supper is on, but nothing is happening on July 4th. Sign up in the Sign Up Genius if you want to host one of those suppers. We'll keep them going as long as people are providing food for them. And when you decide not to do Wednesday evening suppers, we'll stop doing Wednesday evening suppers. I do want to let you know about some things happening July 21st because hopefully our new director of Lifespan Faith Development is going to be here to meet folks. That person won't start until September 1st, but we want you to be able to meet her, and we want her to be able to spend some time with our junior and senior high especially, and we're going to have ice cream. So be here for that on July 21st. And also, some of our congregants have been building some connections with the Interfaith Group Against Hate, and they are hosting a program that same day, July 21st, that is focusing on the way that hate manifests itself across and within our society, and the important thing, what can be done within local congregations and communities. So this is a program that's going to be held at Olivet Institutional Baptist Church from 1 to 3 p.m. July 21st. I think there's information in the newsletter, and also Helen Guten has been instrumental in helping people get connected with that. So if you want more information, you can email me or talk to Helen, and we'll get you connected there. That's a lot going on for the month of July. Thank you all for bringing the temperature down from what it was last week. Keep doing what you are doing. It's much more pleasant today. This was a much more successful week for you all in that regard. May you be full of rest, even in all that we are doing. May we be full of connection and trust that we are enough, that we have done enough, even though there is always more to do, and that we can rest alongside the people around us in that sense of connection and peace. Amen, and blessed be.
And now you're invited to join me reading as we extinguish the chalice. You'll find the words on the yellow card, back of the pew, in front of you. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.